Last weekend we had the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, a very wet race it was indeed, and we had McLaren domination in the British Grand Prix, but the race winner ended up being Lando Norris, even though for most of the race he was comfortably outpaced by Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri, though, lost the race because of a 10-second time penalty for this incident under the safety car. But as I am going to get into in this video, Oscar Piastri was essentially set up to fail by the FIA in regards to this incident, and I'm going to cover the incident itself and examine again why he was set up to fail by the FIA and essentially couldn't do anything about what happened in regards to the very end of this safety car period, which of course led to his 10-second penalty. So that's what we're going to be looking at in this video. Make sure to smash the like button on this video, guys, before we probably get into it. And also, let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts of my analysis, but also what you thought of the whole situation and the penalty and whether you thought it was right or not. So what we're firstly going to touch on is why Oscar Piastri was set up to fail in regards to this incident, before we get into the technicalities of whether he should have been punished or whether he was punished correctly by the FIA. So, under the safety car, Oscar Piastri, of course, was the leader. Right behind him was Max Verstappen, and Lando Norris was in third. And the safety car came in, obviously, at the end of this particular lap. But the message of the safety car coming in and the lights being turned out on the safety car happened very late in comparison to how this system normally works and as actually worked in that Grand Prix weekend we had last week. Here is a screenshot from the safety car period in the F2 race, which happened earlier in the day on that race day at Silverstone. And the safety car period, in terms of the message being given that the safety car was going to be coming in at the end of that lap, was given during the first sector, which normally it is given either during the first sector or at the end of the first sector at pretty much every other track, and even earlier in the weekend. But for some reason, in the F1 race, not once but twice, it happened a few laps before with an earlier safety car period, the FIA decided to notify everyone the safety car was coming in at almost the end of the lap rather than the start of the lap or at the end of the first sector, which again is normally how it happens. So in this instance, because of this very late message that the safety car is coming in and the lights being turned off on the safety car quite late for what Oscar Piastri was expecting, because at this point on this onboard, Oscar Piastri would not have expected the safety car to be coming in, given how late on the lap they were. He probably would have been expecting the safety car to stay out for another lap. But once the lights on the safety car were turned off, Oscar did pretty much exactly what you are supposed to do. He braked, yes, quite hard, and did slow down quite dramatically, but he had to give the safety car the space it needed to get back to the pit lane, which only was around on the exit of Stowe Corner, which was literally the next corner ahead of Piastri. So Oscar, a couple seconds after the safety car lights are turned out, he brakes hard, gives the safety car the space it needs, but because the safety car message to come in was very late, and Piastri obviously was surprised by this, him braking hard and late obviously caught out others who ended up going past him, such as Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Of course, this would cost Verstappen dearly, as he would then spin on the exit of Stowe Corner because of cold tyres, which I think is absolutely in relation to him having to stop so abruptly after passing briefly Piastri's car. But then once Piastri slowed down as much as he did, once the safety car had made it back to the pit lane, Oscar did exactly what you're supposed to do. He then controlled the pace briefly, and then he got going and got the race going again. So he did Oscar exactly what you are supposed to do. When the safety car lights are turned out, you are supposed to slow the pack down to allow the safety car to get to the pit lane, and then you become the pace car, and then once the safety car has entered the pit lane, it is up to the leader, which was Oscar Piastri, to control the pace and to control when they get properly up to full speed again. And again, that is exactly what Piastri did. So in terms of what Oscar did, he did nothing wrong as far as I'm concerned. But even though he did nothing wrong, technically speaking, yes, he deserved the penalty. But only because the FIA will never admit that their message to call in the safety car as late as they did on that lap, they will never admit that that was incorrect. So because of that, yes, technically speaking, Oscar Piastri deserved the penalty. And here is the document going through why Oscar Piastri got the penalty from the FIA's point of view, but nowhere does it talk about them calling in the safety car late on that lap. Again, the FIA, according to them, did nothing wrong, and because of that, they were always going to give Oscar Piastri this penalty, and they were never going to take into account the circumstances of them calling in the safety car as late as they did on that lap, and it causing Piastri to do what he did. So technically speaking, the penalty was fair, but again, the FIA set him up to fail, and if they had acted properly and normally by calling the safety car in or having the message that the safety car was going to come in at the usual point during or at the end of the first sector, this never would have happened, and Oscar Piastri would have comfortably won the race, which is really what should have happened. But again, the FIA screwed over Oscar here as far as I'm concerned. In terms of what was said post-race, Oscar Piastri was tight-lipped. Of course, he doesn't want to get in trouble and is keen to move on to the next Grand Prix. McLaren, they did come out and say after the Grand Prix that they thought their rivals' reaction to the incident helped Piastri get a penalty, but even though I see their point, I do still think Piastri would have got the penalty anyway. But this is once again another situation of the FIA being inconsistent in applying the regulations, and it resulted in screwing over a driver out of winning the British Grand Prix. But thankfully for Piastri, he still finished at least second and is still leading the Drivers' Championship. So he could have been screwed even more had McLaren not been as dominantly quick as they were in the British Grand Prix last weekend. But guys, let me know in the comments section below what you thought of my analysis and what you thought of the penalty in general. And just let me know in general what you think going forward for the Drivers' Championship battle now between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Who do you think now comes out on top in that fight for their maiden, of course, Drivers' Championship for either Piastri or Norris? But until my next video in a couple weeks' time, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.